A Boeing 757 prepares for takeoff from Lima, Peru, but as the plane lifts off into the darkness, an unseen mistake turns the night sky into a deadly trap. What went wrong on Aeroperú Flight 603, and how did a simple oversight lead to one of aviation's most tragic disasters? International Airport, named after Hugo Chavez Lima, October 2, 1996. Aeroperú Flight 603, a passenger airliner, Boeing 757-200, prepares to head to its final destination, Santiago, Chile. The flight initially began in Miami on a Boeing 757, but several hours ago, when the plane landed here in Lima, aviation technicians discovered technical issues. Therefore, the aircraft had to be replaced with a reserve Boeing 757, which had already passed all the required technical inspections. Following these checks, passengers began to board the aircraft. There are 70 people on this flight, 61 passengers, and 9 crew members. The experienced crew is ready to operate the Boeing. Captain Eric Schreiber, Ladrón de Guevara, with 5 years of experience, and First Officer David Fernandez Rivera, with 2 years of experience. In the passenger cabin, there are 7 flight attendants. An hour before departure, the captain conducted an external inspection of the aircraft with a flashlight. Seeing nothing suspicious, he returned to the cockpit to prepare for takeoff.
Lima Tower, Aeroperu 603, runway 15 is ready for departure.
Aeroperu 603, copy. Use the noise abatement procedure.
At 11:42 p.m., the controller gives clearance for our crew to depart, and the Boeing 757 lifts off from Lima's runway, setting course for Santiago. After takeoff, the aircraft begins to climb, but within seconds, the pilots notice the aircraft behaving strangely. Something is clearly wrong, and the situation is beginning to spiral out of control. Suddenly, a low-speed warning and altitude alert sound in the cockpit. The captain begins to analyze the indicators, while the first officer struggles to keep the plane on course. The rudder angle warning alarm goes off, followed by an alert about incorrect stabilizer position. While the first officer holds the control column, the captain tries to make sense of the conflicting warnings. At this time, a caution alarm sounds in the cockpit. A few seconds later, the emergency alarm begins, further confusing the pilots. Realizing the critical nature of the situation, the pilots contact the control tower in Lima and report serious issues.
Aeroperu 603, Tower, Aeroperu 603, declaring an emergency.
Tower, copy. Aeroperu 603. What's your situation?
Aeroperu 603. We have a loss of airspeed indication and are declaring an emergency. Tower, understood. What's your altitude?
Aeroperu 603. We don't know. Approximating 700 feet.
Tower, roger that. Aeroperu 603. Confirm if you can switch to frequency 119.7 for radar control instructions.
Aeroperu 603. Switching to 119.7.
Seconds later, the autopilot disconnects. Due to the large discrepancy between the captain's and first officer's instrument readings, the autopilot had immediately disengaged. The pilots contact the Lima controller, announcing their intention to return and request vectors for landing. The controller instructs them to maintain a heading of 330 degrees and an altitude of 4,009 feet. The pilots reply that they are unable to do so as the aircraft continues to climb uncontrollably. The first officer reports severe control problems. The pilots notice their altimeters begin working and display an increase in altitude. The aircraft is now 30 miles from the coast. The controller advises them to maintain 11,482 feet and hold a course of 350 degrees. The autopilot is re-engaged and stabilizes the aircraft temporarily. At the same time, the controller contacts the pilots and informs them that, according to radar readings, the aircraft is flying at an altitude of 11,482 feet with an approximate speed of 356 miles per hour. He instructs them to maintain a heading of 330 degrees. 2 minutes later, another alarm sounds, and the autopilot disconnects again. The pilots initiate descent, and the captain notices the speed readings are exceeding safe limits. The crew requests the controller for their radar-indicated speed. The pilots deploy spoilers, air brakes on the wings, to reduce speed. However, Another warning sounds about exceeding maximum allowable speed. The crew reduces the engine thrust to idle, but this doesn't help. The pilots are in total confusion as the speed readings continue to rise, reaching 454 miles per hour. A stall warning sounds, which further disorients the crew. The pilots are unsure of what to believe. The aircraft is flying over open ocean in complete darkness, with no external reference points, while the onboard computer provides contradictory flight data. However, the Boeing 707 is ready to depart only in 15 minutes, while Flight 603 has mere seconds remaining. At 1:09 a.m., the controller informs the pilots that radar indicates they are at 10,000 feet with a speed of 253 miles per hour and 37 miles from the shore. The pilots increase engine thrust, and for 45 seconds, the GPWS warning about dangerous proximity to the ground sounds. The altimeter shows an altitude of 10,000 feet. The pilots, realizing that the aircraft is close to crashing into the water, increase the engine thrust to maximum. The ground proximity warning stops, leading the pilots to conclude it was another system malfunction. At 1:08 a.m., the captain activates the Instrument Landing System, ILS, to align the aircraft for landing. At 1:10 a.m., the Boeing 757, traveling at 298 miles per hour, strikes the water with its left wing. The pilots pull back sharply on the control column, causing the plane to climb, but water had already entered the left engine, causing a flameout and engine failure. This leads to a significant thrust imbalance. The aircraft climbs to 197 feet, rolls over, and crashes into the ocean at 264 miles per hour, breaking into two parts and sinking. All 70 people on board perished. Following the controller's instructions, rescue teams are dispatched to the Pacific Ocean coast, hoping to spot survivors, but no signals are seen. Later, a local fisherman reports seeing a flash on the horizon, and in the morning, long fuel streaks are found on the water's surface, confirming the worst fears. The plane had crashed upon impact with the water. 9 bodies are found on the surface. The rest sank with the aircraft. The investigation into the crash of Flight 603 was conducted by Peru's Ministry of Transportation and Communications, with Guido Fernandez Latorre, uncle of First Officer David Fernandez Rivera, appointed as lead investigator. The U.S. Navy offered assistance in locating the aircraft, which was soon found at the depth of over 1,300 feet. The aircraft was broken into 2 parts, and audio recordings of the pilot's conversations with the controller were recovered. The cause of the crash was soon identified. The static pressure ports of the pitot static system on the captain's side were covered with duct tape. The tape was applied during aircraft cleaning, but the workers forgot to remove it afterward. With the sensors blocked during takeoff, they provided false readings. As the sensors on the opposite side of the aircraft were not covered, discrepancies in data caused system malfunctions, leading to incorrect instrument readings. Covering pitot static sensors with tape is a standard procedure during cleaning or painting, but the tape should be brightly colored for easy detection. However, in the case of Flight 603, workers used non-standard silver tape. The airport employee who applied the tape was filling in for a supervisor and was unaware of the importance of these sensors, leading to the oversight. On December 13, 1999, the families of Flight 603 passengers received one of the largest compensation payouts for an aviation accident, amounting to $1 million per victim. For AeroPeru, already facing financial difficulties, this was fatal, and the airline declared bankruptcy that same year. All financial obligations fell to Boeing, which completed the payments only in 2006. The phrase, "aviation does not forgive mistakes," is well known for a reason. In this case, one simple oversight led to the deaths of 70 people. An airport worker applied tape that did not meet safety standards and then forgot to remove it. The captain, during pre-flight preparation in darkness, couldn't see it as the tape was silver-colored. After takeoff, everything went haywire. The pilots flew blind, without instruments, in the dark, with no ground references. The crew suffered spatial disorientation, from which they couldn't recover. It is tragic how such preventable errors lead to massive disasters.